Do you need products from Crime Precision, Eagle, or LBT to play Airsoft? Today we're going to be taking a look at cases from both sides of the spectrum, cases for real gear and cases for replica gear. What's up, Airsofters? My name is Lane and welcome to the BB Warrior. We're here to help you have a better time both on and off the airsofting field. And today I want to talk a little bit about gear and some of the reasons why you may want to choose a more affordable brand over a more expensive brand. While the more expensive brand will typically be of a higher quality, there are some reasons why you would want to choose a cheaper and more affordable brand. So as you may have noticed in the beginning of the video, I referenced real and replica gear in quotations. And while it all is real gear, it's all a tangible item that you can wear and use and play BB Wars in, I wanted to think of a non-biased way to talk about each party. So real gear, I'm talking about American-made, high-quality tactical gear from companies like Crye, Velocity Systems, LBT, Dryfire, Eagle. I'm missing a ton of companies because a bunch of people make military gear, but you get the idea. And then for replica gear, I'm talking about China-made or poorly made US gear like Condor, 511, Fly, TMC, Emerson, those types of companies. And then you do have some of the knockoff companies which are pretty good like Toy Soldier and Samapo. But however, first I want to talk about the reasons why you'd want to choose a lesser quality piece of tactical gear that is more affordable, because I always like to give cases against my own point of view to start off these videos. So one of the main reasons that I can see someone wanting to choose a less expensive piece of tactical gear is that they don't play enough to justify spending the money. Because if you're someone who doesn't play enough, I don't see you justifying buying a $200 pair of Crye Precision combat pants, whereas if you're playing every weekend or every Saturday and Sundays, you're playing like 8 times a month, I can see you spending that money, and that's kind of where I am. I play about 3 times a month. I mean, there are people who play more than me, there are people that play less than me, and just based off the amount of time that you play, you have to justify how much you're willing to spend. The same thing goes with buying an airsoft gun. If you only play every once in a while, is there really a point for you to pick up a Crytek LVOA? Because that is a pretty hefty price point where you could get something that's pretty good and you're not going to be spending money for something you don't do too often. So a lot of people who don't really play too often, I see going for lesser quality tactical gear because they don't really see the need to spend money on something they don't use very often. When I was starting out Airsoft, that was the pool that I was in. When I first really got into Airsoft, I only played every month or every other month because back then I didn't really know that there were fields around me. There was no Airsoft C3 at the time. So I could only play games based off of word of mouth. So, hey, someone's hosting their backyard game, let's go play, or someone's hosting in the woods. And my first vest I ever picked up was a Blackhawk RRV knockoff, and it was all right. I mean, I don't really like bungee retention, which you'll know if you watched my Haley Strategic MP2 magazine insert video. However, I didn't really like it, and I didn't really see the need to have a $100 vest when I could get something that's more affordable for the amount of times I play, and that's what I did. I picked up a Matrix by Evike Sierra's vest that came loaded with pouches, and that was about $65, I believe, and I was pretty happy with it because, again, I didn't play very often, so even though there were some downsides and the quality wasn't as on par with the Blackhawk, I didn't see myself needing to spend that much money on it because I didn't play very often. And as I started playing more and more, I did pick up better quality tactical gear, moving on to like Fly, then Toy Soldier, and now I'm on to real companies like Velocity Systems, Mayflower, Crye Precision. Another reason why you may not want to pick up the real version of something if you're buying a knockoff or if you're just buying a cheaper and more affordable piece of gear is you may not need the features that are included on the real or the higher end manufacturer spectrum. So a great example of this is combat shirts. When you're playing Airsoft, do you really need the flame retardant material that's on a Crye or a Dryfire combat shirt? No. Because the reason why they apply that is so that when an IED goes off next to you, the material of your combat shirt isn't going to stick to your skin and give you the worst burns of your life. You are never going to be experiencing an IED or any type of explosion in Airsoft besides a Thunderbee. So there really is no need to spend the money on something that has those flame retardant properties. So I mean, if you're looking for a combat shirt and you're just playing BB Wars, you're not real military or law enforcement, you can go with something like LBX, which I don't believe has that flame retardant material. But if you either just want to wear it as a fashion statement and be like, yeah, I got a real Crye combat shirt, you just like the material and the stitching, or it just kind of, it gets you off, go ahead and buy the Crye Combat shirt. However, there are some features on the Crye Combat shirt that you don't need for Airsoft. Another example is a plate carrier with an emergency DOF kit. I mean, you're never going to be injured enough in Airsoft where you're going to need to quickly rip off your vest and have it fall to the ground. So you really don't need a vest with a feature like that. Like I believe the Cage plate carrier from Crye has that. Condor actually makes a emergency DOF vest, and there are a bunch of companies that do. However, you really don't need that feature in Airsoft. So you may find yourself spending less money on gear because there's features of it that you don't need. Now I want to talk about some of the reasons why you would want to choose a higher quality tactical gear from a company like Crye, Velocity, Eagle, or LBT. And one of the first ones that I can think of is reliability and American-made craftsmanship, because American-made gear is made here in America. It is more uniform, it is a higher quality, and while they do use some of the same materials, because a lot of these companies overseas are starting to use real Crye multicam. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, it's real multicam, so it has to be the same quality. Well, the way that you design your product and the way that you apply your stitching is going to determine the reliability and the durability of it when the fabric is a constant. One of the greatest examples I can think of is weighted plates. A Condor plate carrier and a Crye or some other nice plate carrier, they're both going to hold that plate. However, something that the Crye or the higher quality plate carrier that is going to account for is going to be shifting and the weight of the plate moving around as you move around your body. Because if you think about it, fighting and just general gunplay is a very dynamic experience, and your body is always constantly shifting and moving around as you fight. And your body is moving due to recoil in real firearms, at least. So a lot of these higher end manufacturers put more time into making sure that the weight is distributed in a way that isn't going to cause rip and tears, whereas replica companies, they're trying to make their products as affordable as they can. They're going to cut corners. And that kind of brings me into the next part of this video, which is talking about stitching. So American-made manufacturers have more stitches per inch. Great example is a primary and secondary article from about 2 years ago. And if you're unfamiliar with primary and secondary, they are a firearms blog that is aimed to help people just survive and not die and buy better products, essentially. A lot of it is really geared towards the real world situations. However, there are some articles that are really beneficial to us airsofters. And one of them was comparing a Condor plate carrier and a Velocity Systems plate carrier. And keep in mind, Velocity Systems cost a whole lot more. The difference was about $200 between the plate carriers they were comparing. And with the Velocity Systems, and this goes for all American-made gear, there's going to be more stitches per inch. The Velocity System was 8 stitch per inch. The Condor is 5. The stitching is going to be more universal. The Maui is going to be more universal. So if you're unfamiliar, Maui is 1.5 inches across, 1 inch in between, which you got to have it uniform for your pouches to stay on there. You got to have things like bar tack stitching, because once you start to put weight on there, that's going to move around. It's going to be more uniform going around the plate bag, so it's going to make sure that your stitching is symmetrical to the plate bag. And if your plate bag is straight right here, you don't want your stitching going like that, because that creates weak points. And another one that I can think of that comes to mind is the drag handle. So as you are probably familiar, if you know anything about moving other objects, that the more space that the weight is put upon, the less stress there's going to be and the less chance for rippage. So on a Condor plate carrier, the drag handle is just kind of sewn right there. It's sewn underneath a piece of moly or so, and it's just held on by a few stitches. So I mean, if you really wanted to, when you have to drag someone who with their full equipment and their plates is going to weigh over 200 pounds, you're just going to rip that drag handle right off, and you're going to be like, oh God, how am I going to carry this guy now? Whereas on something like an LBT 6094, the drag handle is in the same position. However, the strip of material goes almost down to, I believe, like 2/3 of the way down to the plate bag, if not the bottom of the plate bag. And all that extra stitching and things like that is going to spread the stress of you pulling on them and the weight of their body and their plate carrier and their plates across the entire rear plate bag. And that's going to make sure so that when you drag him, you're not just going to rip it off and hit yourself in the face while holding the drag handle. So these companies do need to cut corners to make it more affordable. So buying a higher end manufacturer, you're just going to have a better piece of tactical gear, and you're not going to have to worry about as much. And if you're someone who likes to wear weighted plates, this is going to matter a lot, because the added weight of the plates, like 5 pounds of plate all the way up to like 10 pounds of plate if you're some guy that likes to use AR 500 for some reason. You're going to want a higher end manufacturer to make sure that your plate carrier can support the weight of not only your plates, but your ammo, your magazines, your general purpose pouches, your hydration, any breaching tools you have if you're playing at a super serious game. So there are some distinct advantages for choosing better gear. However, it is at a higher price tag, and you just need to justify that with yourself. Is it worth spending the extra money for me to make sure that I have a better product? Because for some people, it isn't, and for some people it is. And I'm right in the middle. Like I like having a high quality load-bearing gear. One of the best examples I can think of is my ruck from Milsim West. I could have went with a pretty bad ruck, and I could have gotten one for about $100 to $175. I could have gone with something from 511, which aren't bad. However, I know that rucking is going to be a pretty awful experience, and that weight on my back is going to be something I'm going to have to deal with. So I decided to spend the extra money to make sure that I got a ruck that is going to be able to support the weight and not hurt my back or anything. So I went with a Mystery Ranch bag, and the Mystery Ranch is a whole lot more than like the 511, which was the other option I was looking at. However, that extra money is worth it to me because even just testing it before I go out to Milsim West, the weight distribution is really, really nice. So you just kind of have to justify it with yourself. There are some products I own that are from a high-end manufacturer made in America, and there are some products that I just don't see myself spending the money on. I want to know what you guys think of the real versus replica debate. Make sure to let me know what type of gear that you like to use. I think that this is more prevalent in plate carriers than chest rigs. However, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below because I love hearing your guys' feedback and what you guys think of the topics that we discuss. That is going to do it for this video though. If you enjoyed the video and this was your first time here, you can always subscribe by hitting that subscribe button down below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit that bell icon right next to it for updates when we post more videos every Tuesday and Friday here on the channel. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on social media. It'll be right below that subscribe button in our description. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, again, to get more notifications when we post videos here on YouTube and content that doesn't make it into our videos. This has been Lane from the BB Warrior talking about the reasonings between why you'd want to have real gear or replica gear, and I will see you all next time.